Hello, everyone. Welcome to the February Guilderland DEI meeting. Can I get a motion to call the meeting to order? Nina and Tara, thank you very much. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Okay, next we're going to look at review our minutes. Can I get a motion to review minutes for approval? Oh, Nina and Tara, thank you. Were there any questions about the minutes or any issues with the minutes that anyone wanted to discuss? Okay. If not, motion for approval. I think I did it backwards. Derek and Tara, thank you so much. Our minutes are approved. Okay, next we are going to have our reports from our subcommittees, and they're going to share their most recent work. First committee is communications. Is anyone here from there?
Well, I'll start, but I did a poor job of keeping track of my minutes. So Tara and whoever else was on that meeting, you can help me. Felicia, I think you were there too. We continued our conversation about the interest in being able to better define what we mean and what we don't mean by DEI within our school community. And we went back and looked at our language about what it is and what it isn't, and thought it stood really quite well, stood up pretty well under discussion. And then I remember Tara shared some really interesting thoughts about how we can think about what DEI is in some very much everyday life experiences, like closed captioning on our televisions and curb cuts in our sidewalks. All of these things which we are very much a part of our life really are our overall society's effort to be more inclusive and to make sure everyone can participate. So we talked about how to spread that message out more to our greater community. I'm not sure we landed on a single way to do that. So that's still a bit of a work in progress. And then I know we talked, and this is where I need help a bit, where our students were looking to do some video clips of students talking about their thoughts about DEI. And I will turn to my partners in committee work to fill in the blanks there, if you recall better than I do.
Yes, so I can just talk a little bit about that. I went to Student Voice this past week and talked with some of the students about what we had discussed, which was just that maybe they could help explain some things that they enjoy that we're doing intentionally at the school, like the library having a lot of books options and signage on the walls and all the other initiatives that we're doing. And I think it went really well. The kids really seemed interested in it. I don't know how long it'll take us to get that together, but when I have more information on that, I'll get back to you.
Thanks, Felicia. Tara, do you have more to add?
Yeah, I just, Cassie had brought up that there are high school students going to elementary schools to teach DEI lessons. And then we were thinking, well, maybe we could do a videotape of them interacting with students and whatever lesson they're teaching. And then maybe talk to some of the elementary kids and ask them how they feel about, how they're feeling included and kind of that works. So it's still like really early in the planning stages, but we thought that would be a really great way just to kind of caption what it is. And it's not this big, dark secret thing that we're doing to students.
Thanks, Tara. I think that's it for us, Shaka.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for the communications subcommittee? If not, let's move on to community engagement.
I can start by sharing out a little bit about community engagement. So we continue talking about the video that we're planning on doing at both the high school and the middle school level, and it was kind of a video centered around inclusion. So we kind of focused this meeting on kind of our action items and how to get the video started and start interacting with students. So we just talked about the video details like timing and outreach, how to get the video out. We're thinking during homeroom we could play the video and work with GHS Media and also FMS Media as well. And then how to get students to sign up and also like logistics about filming and stuff like that. And then Tamika shared a video guideline for school videos that we're looking to use to kind of structure out the video and get started and make an outline for that at the high school level. And we also talked a little bit about like other things we could do within the community engagement committee, like community-based events. Like one idea we came up with was like having community members attend the cultural fair, or like having spotlights of community members, or even like book talks or film screenings. So we were looking to engage the community in different ways as well and continue working on those videos.
Thank you so much. Any questions, anyone? Or comments? Great, thank you. I'm going to report out for the research committee as well. Our discussion, similarly to the other groups, centered around the current climate regarding DEI. Our students still want to participate in the activities, but they're concerned about, backlash. We talked about making sure we acknowledge the culture and climate survey data and, really put that out there so that people know what the results were and the needs that our school community has. We talked a little bit about immigration and that topic, and Heather had suggested that students know their rights with regards to expression. We talked about the district making a statement with regard to DEI and that it was being discussed. Nina did mention circle training as a way to embed practices that support the value of DEI. We also talked about making the work of the schools, the individual schools, known, because really only the building equity committees have an idea kind of what's going on, but the community at large may not. And sharing that at the district level and, hoping that they can learn from each other. The schools can learn from each other. We talked about the need to focus on unity and diversity rather than just the differences that are being focused on at this current time. And we also mentioned We Are Guilderland, really getting behind that message to create community and a potential t-shirt initiative that students are going to be considering. We talked about the utilization of our allies at this point in time to make points regarding DEI and continue to support that message. And I think that's about it. Anyone else from the committee that's on, if you'd like to share? Anything I might have missed? See a thumbs up from Derek.
Yeah, I think you covered it well. Thank you.
All right, not a problem. Okay, last but not least, our Student Voice Committee.
I can share for Student Voice.
Thanks, Shreya.
So basically, last week we had the assistant principals come in and we kind of like finalized our main ideas. So three of like our main ideas are the breakfast. We haven't really talked a lot about the logistics for this idea yet, but basically we're thinking of like having students be like nominated by teachers, and then we would talk about topics like bullying and or like cultural differences. Like I said again, we haven't really like planned out all the details for this idea yet, but that's like the main part for that idea. And then going to Linwood for a presentation was our second idea, and this one's like a lot of people have been planning this already, so it's almost set to go. Basically, high schoolers and middle schoolers, if they can, they would go to Linwood, and we were planning to read to students a book about like inclusivity, and then do an activity with them, have a discussion with them, things like that. And that's currently in the process. And the last idea was just the anti-hate rally. We were thinking like, I mean, we didn't really plan this during the meeting, but we were just talking about like what is going to happen at our rally this year, things that we might want to include and stuff like that. And then after that, we kind of reflected on our staff conference, like what went well, what could be better, stuff like that. And I think that was it, but feel free to add if I missed anything.
I could share for the middle school, but I want to make sure that no one else wanted to share for the high school.
I just want to say something about like the high school student voice subcommittee. On the community engagement subcommittee, we're thinking of maybe we could collaborate with the student voice subcommittee on making that video. So like since we're kind of being like split into people who have interest in working on different projects, that could be another project we're working on. So I'd love to see how we can collaborate between the two committees. And also we could, between the elementary school presentations, we could also maybe try making a video on that, which was mentioned earlier. So I think we could work on that together.
Tim, do you have a question?
Yep. Is there a plan to do this at the other elementary schools? Like you're going to Linwood. There's a plan to go to Linwood. Is there a plan to go to the other 4 schools to do the same thing?
Not this year, I don't think, just because like for timing, like this is the first time we're doing it. So we were planning to start out in Linwood, and then like for like the upcoming years, we'd go to different elementary schools.
There's also a discussion about not clashing with some of the other programming that's going on in the elementary schools. In particular, Teacher Corps and some of our other groups are involved in the other elementary schools. So this was an opening that a void that the students decided to fill.
Okay. I was just curious because of the self-contained classes that we have at certain elementary schools. It would be a good chance to talk to the students about inclusion.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Derek and Leah if she's available for DEI in action.
All right. We have been very busy. I know Leah's on the call as well. Gee whiz, this last month, let's see. Leah and I met with the Student Voice Group to work on their presentation for Linwood Equity Team. They also began planning for the anti-hate rally. I think that was just mentioned. Also, the students mentioned that 20 FMS and Gilliland High School students attended the Students Together Opposing Prejudice Stop Conference at Siena College. It was a good turnout for our students, and they were very participatory in the day's activities. And the theme of the conference was the civil rights movement and the impact that it had on the disability rights movement. So it was, I think, a timely topic for us in a number of ways. Leah did another tutorial takeover where students explored different books written by Jason Reynolds, the author Jason Reynolds, and also read about his life. And this is preparing them for a book break virtual visit with Jason Reynolds that would be coming up in February. Leah and I also attended the Farnsworth Middle School Lunar New Year Assembly performed by the Chinese Community Center. That was a very well received activity. The students were very loud and boisterous and really participatory in the activity. It was really nice to see that activity go off and go so well. Leah joined Teacher Corps last month for student co-taught lessons. I think she's a wonderful addition to that class, and her perspective definitely helps bring DEI to the classroom for another generation of teachers, and that relationship has been going very well. Leah also attended the elementary library cabinet meeting and joined the Feminist Club last month. We both joined the Gillen High School Student Voice Committee. Leah joined an ELA class, and Leah and I joined an ELA class and analyzed Raisin in the Sun and talked about the diversity issues related to that text and how help the students understand the climate of the times in which that set, in which the text was set. The district equity teams gathered together at Gilliland High School on January 30th and got a chance to come together and share what they were doing in each of the different schools. And it was a good time to do a little mini lesson about how we are building community and how we're trying to share the developments and what's going on in each of the schools, not only with each other and cross-fertilize the building equity teams, but also giving them a chance to think about how they wanted to present this material for Superintendent's Day, so that they can join the spate of PDs that are going to be available to staff and be able to share what's been going on and to create conversations around the topics that they've been exploring in the different buildings. Leah and I also joined Social Studies Cabinet, where we help them prepare Juneteenth lessons for the elementary school in particular. And we also joined Felicia, one of our teachers in the middle school, and we co-taught a lesson that she presented to her students about the author Joshua Levy. And the students read about the author, explored his books, and explored other books by Jewish authors and learned about influential Jewish Americans. It was a very nice class. It went over the space of 2 days, and it was a very great presentation. February 5th was World Read Aloud Day, and a number of things were set up by Leah to bring in authors from Joshua Levy, who also joined Felicia Millam's students, and they talked about how he writes and what he loves. He wrote about time travel, science fiction, and his Jewish heritage. Leah and Sherry Hart also welcomed Meg Kuyat to speak with her students. She was the author with autism and writes her protagonist from that perspective. So it also gave students definitely a way to understand that disabilities and gain awareness there. Her book, Good Different, earned a Schneider Family Book Award, which honors the author and illustrator for a book that embodies the artistic expression of a disability experience for a child and adolescent audiences. And they also had National Book Award winner Shifa Safadi, author of Kareem Between, to speak to the students on World Read Aloud Day. On the February 10th, the Farnsworth Student Voice Committee prepared for other students a brief lunch presentation to participate in their next subcommittee meeting. And to my understanding, it went very well, and that a number of students showed up. Maybe someone would like to speak to that to the next subcommittee meeting. Leah also attended a BSU meeting where had special guests. My predecessor, Matt Pinchinat, who is now the Deputy Managing Director of DEI for New York State Teachers Retirement. Leah also attended the Youth People's Concert at Gilliland High School. The music department does a fantastic job of getting third grade students about the many choices they'll have when picking instruments and participating in choir. And Leah and I also attended civil conversation discussion at Gilliland High School, and the topic was, is DEI dividing the country? It was a very lively debate amongst the students, and we went and took notes and tried as best we could to button our mouths and listen to their perspectives, and it was a really good time. And Leah also attended the 38th annual Martin Luther King lecture at Siena College to support one of our seniors, Chloe Tyson, who received the Courage Award this year. And that is DEI in action. Leah, do you have anything you would like to add? Okay. Oh, Jody is letting us know that the Farnsworth Student Voice group had 24 students attend their next meeting, attend their most recent meeting. And that's the typical turnout has been 5 students. So the Students Initiative yielded 19 additional voices, which is pretty incredible. The students got the pulse of their peers, and they encouraged them to come out. I think that's commendable. And now their challenge is to keep those 24 students in the room and connected to what's going on. And so the student voice committees are leading in ways that they're barely aware of, in terms of being able to draw students out and to increase participation and to grow the voices of our students with regard to DEI in our community.
That's excellent.
And I actually just parked in my my house, and there might be some more information about the equity mid-year meetings that happen with all the schools, because I know that each of the schools shared out some things. It's just going to take me a moment to get my computer up. So I don't know if Marie and Derek, there might be a document I emailed you if that might highlight some things.
Definitely. I think we covered most of that from the DEI in Action report.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Wiles for a membership update.
Sure. It doesn't seem possible, but we are in February, which is the month before we start talking about recruiting new members for this committee for next year. So I'm just reminding everybody that next month we'll be sending out a communication to ask for letters of interest from individuals who would like to serve, and they will be to replace those members who will be cycling off the committee in June of 2025. And just like we've done in the past, the letter will kind of outline the purpose of our committee and ask individuals to tell us what subcommittee they might be interested in. And then what happens with those letters of interest, they are actually shared with the Board of Education, and the board will make decisions about who will join. And then we always try to make those decisions so that new members can join our June meeting and get a feel for what it's like to be on this committee. So there's currently 5 members who will be cycling off after their 2-year term. We have 1 staff member, 2 parents, and 2 community members who also happen to be parents in that category. It's hard to find people who don't wear multiple hats. We also have 2 students who will be graduating in June, and there's no worry that they won't, that Shreya and Anju will not be walking across the stage with all kinds of honors. And so I wanted to mention this, that if there are committee members who really want to be considered to continue on for a second 2 years, just also submit a letter in March with everyone else's. And we would absolutely entertain that as a consideration. You know, it feels like the 2 years go by very quickly, just getting into the swing of this work. So stay tuned. That will all happen in a few weeks. And just so you know, I guess I should have said, so the staff is Emma Drellinger, who's coming up for 2 years. Our parents are Beth Martinez and Suzanne Koala. I think I said that right. And then community members, Tamika and Shaka, both on this call. So just FYI, and again, except for our graduating students, if you're interested in serving some more on this committee, just submit your letter in March when it comes out. And thank you, everybody who's here tonight. We very much value your work. And that's it, Shaka, for that one. Unless there are questions.
Anise, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just wondered, like, for the graduating students, could they come back as community members?
Well, they could if they were still in our community, or you know, lots of times they're off into the great next step of their lives. But if they wanted to be community members because they were going to be close by, absolutely.
That'd be awesome. A different perspective from the same person.
Yeah. Great idea.
Okay, it's time for our learning component. I don't know who is going to be doing that tonight. Is it you, Derek?
Yes, Leah has her hand up though.
Oh, Leah.
Hi, sorry. I wanted to make sure that I got this in too, because I think all of the schools are doing such great work. And when we met on the 30th during the Equity Action Team meetings for our mid-year meeting, we were able to get a chance to hear from all of the different schools. And so I just wanted to highlight like one thing from each school. There's actually more than that, but just for timing, because I know we've got a learning component. Linwood Elementary, they looked at the summer, over the summer, looked at the climate and culture survey. And so they adopted a responsive classroom, you know, as a priority to build community and focus on inclusion and promote student voice. Westmere Elementary took a page from Guilderland Elementary School with their cultural snack chats. And they are starting snack chats with, and started to learn more about their community, and really wanted to brainstorm from their ENL population. And so this month they're having a snack chat on educational system in India. Guilderland Elementary School, their team put together a presentation on ways to talk about holidays, unifying the central theme around lights. Pine Bush Elementary School worked with their food service team, and the ENL teachers made a slideshow to highlight all the different halal offerings that the school offers. And Altamont Elementary had a fresh start with some new staff on the committee, and they created these really amazing school-wide quilts where every single adult and students created their own quilts. And when you walk in, you see everything kind of coming together. It's so beautiful and so welcoming. Farnsworth Middle School, this was the first year for their unified PE there, and they had well over 50 to 60 students participating, which is so incredible. And I know at the high school, they are continuing with their equity walks and focusing on the interactions between teachers and students and staff and students. And they were even able to watch the student forum that was taped before, and so the faculty could hear really what the students are saying. So I just want to kind of make sure that we highlight all the things that are happening in the buildings. You hear the things that like me and Derek might be like directly related to, but there's so many more things. And so, I just want to make sure that that's kind of out there. And so thank you.
Thank you, Leah.
Thanks, Leah. Okay. For the learning component tonight, everyone was asked to read an article entitled, "Not Everyone Will Support DEI. Here's How to Keep Moving Forward." This article was shared with us, and I think it's timely in the sense of everything that's going on and in the society at large, and even in our district, when you're trying to keep a movement going and people connected to it and keep it making progress. Everybody at each of their levels is having difficulty trying to find ways to engage and keep people involved. So the article that everyone had is written by Dr. Michelle King, and I would like to put out there as a question is, what did you take away from that article that you think may be useful in our district? Mike.
I was going to say, I thought the part about just because someone is expressing, don't write off people who are expressing negative reactions to DEI work, because those people are engaged in the conversation, and not everybody's the same for everyone who's expressing negativity about it. You have to differentiate about the different populations that are out there. So it's an opportunity, I guess.
Definitely. Tamika.
Yeah, so similarly, I it was kind of your article. When I received the email, it was timely. I had just ran a webinar for well over, I don't know, 1,200 people, and one of the questions that came in through the comments, as you know, I'm in the background also moderating, was kind of the same sentiment that was discussed here in this article. Where even though we're involved in, you know, in the public health space and a lot of health equity work, was the same question that came from the current administration. And what are we going to do to cut unnecessary, you know, DEI, you know, work? And, you know, I kind of had to like, you know, can a question or can a comment, like just can a response, really, because I don't think any of the work is unnecessary, right? We do this work for a reason. Perhaps there's another way of saying it that might be more acceptable, but take a deep breath and take a step back and try to walk around the table and look at it from a different perspective and say, how else can I explain this to make sure that everyone understands it? And I think we find ourselves in these spaces more and more, where you might explain the same thing 10 different ways. And depending on how you perceive something, one of those explanations is going to be good enough for you. So I love the article. It was great. I love the fact that we're not, you know, really just we're learning how to take a step back, understand it, and then understand a different perspective so we could still move forward respectfully. So.
Is there any other perspectives? I think it's important to note that this Forbes article was largely taken from a corporate point of view. And because of that, the focus tends to be on employees and on hiring and retention and those types of issues and monitoring those situations. So when people are talking about DEI initiatives, they're usually around looking at key performance indicators and trying to make sure that that they're attracting people to the organization and that they're maintaining those people. I think in an educational forum, we have a lot more stakeholders that we deal with. We have faculty, we have students, we have parents. So we have a lot more audiences to deal with, and therefore you have a lot more different perspectives on what DEI is. And so that even makes it more necessary that we figure out how do we gain support from all those different constituencies. Nina.
Just to add to what Tamika said, but also something that Tara said earlier, I think for me, the part that resonated was that this point that DEI is not a new concept, and that one way to get people to understand it is that, similar to things being handicap accessible, Tara, that you referenced, is what I'm connecting earlier, that these are, aspects of civil rights that we've been practicing in, since various acts have been passed to accommodate individuals and, be aware of what types of discrimination can happen against different groups. And that's the work that we're in. So I feel that by reminding everyone that this is a core concept, it can actually speak through all of the different groups that are presented.
Definitely. I think that is part of the challenge, right? Is that one of the things that the article pointed out was that they wanted us to understand how different employees perceive DEI. But there's probably multiple perceptions among students from going to the student forum earlier just yesterday, and among parents and students, as we see in our culture and climate survey. There are vastly different perceptions out there of what DEI is. And so that's a struggle that even our communications committee has been grappling with, is how do we communicate to each of those populations in a way that really reaffirms our awareness of these values. Kim.
I liked the article quite a bit. This is just my thought process with DEI, but I think a huge issue with the people that seem to fight it so much and struggle with it, it's not, I guess I look at it, it's not an initiative, it's more of holding people accountable to being human, if that makes sense. Like Nina was saying, this is civil rights. These are things that people have done over and over. And I feel like, at least, again, this is just my personal feeling, when anyone discusses DEI, in my mind, it's just accountability. It's okay, these are things like diversity, equity, inclusion. These are things that we've been doing that most people do. And you just are holding people accountable to their actions or lack of action on it, if that makes sense.
I think that accountability is where it makes people uncomfortable, because nobody wants to be, if you critique me, you may be calling, or my practice, you may be calling me a racist or a homophobe or someone who hates. So people naturally are going to be defensive if they feel like their core identity is being attacked. And I think the article does speak to that. And like, when people, how do you manage or get past or get through that defensiveness in order to get people to move forward and maintain their energy without feeling accused or like they're the reason we're here? Marie.
I find myself using the expression each and every child a lot, when we talk about our mission and our vision. And if you think about the 4,800 children plus that are in our district as each and every one, you can't help but engage in diversity because they are so diverse. I mean, walk into any one of our classrooms on any given day, and you see a wide range of children with all kinds of differences that are really gifts to us. And so if we're going to be committed to educating and promoting the well-being of each and every child, we have to think about equity, because they all don't need the exact same thing. And we want every single one of those children to feel like they're part of something, which is the inclusive piece. So I feel like if you are in the field of education and you're not committed to recognizing diversity and promoting equity and inclusion, then you probably should be in a different profession, because that's the essence of the work. And Tara, I've heard you say those words again and again, and that's why I think, why are we calling this an initiative? It is our mission. It's like what we've been doing forever. We're just trying to be better at it, and more sensitive to how our students experience school. So it's really, to call it an initiative to me is like, just, I don't know, way off base.
There we go. Tamika.
Absolutely, I agree. There's two sides to this. There's an unfortunate side to this where there are just some people who don't want to be responsible for anyone else, right? And they don't want that. Why should I care what anyone else needs, right? And so you do have, unfortunately, a large part of the sentiment that we're experiencing now is coming from those like-minded individuals. But then you're right, Marie, we all have a responsibility, but at the same time, the majority of us as parents, as teachers, as as just everyday human beings, we also asked for it. We asked for our children to be included. We asked for special services to make sure that, we built a community where we're all accepted and we have equal access to learning and growing and jobs and services and healthcare and things of that nature. We've been asking for this, since day one as we build our country, right? And so it's not anything new, but I guess again, another term that's tripping people up, the DEI, but it's something that everyone has been asking for all along, right? No child left behind, no man or woman left behind. And now that we're finally at this peak where we're like, okay, we're finally getting somewhere, we're educating. The only thing we can do is to continue to educate this generation so it becomes the norm, right? And so we don't have a majority of those individuals that think for themselves and no one else and benefit for themselves and don't want to see the benefit for anyone else. So we just got to stay persistent.
Definitely. Blanca, did you have your hand up earlier and put it down? Okay, Nina.
Just to add to what was said, I just want to say that once again, we are here in this meeting because we tend to have the same viewpoints, and the difficult part comes into being able to extend and teach and explain and whatever it is needed to bring those values and ideas forward. And I think that when we talk about the work, as I remember Matt would say too, this is where the challenge is, the work part. And I think when we look at the different events that we have here, for example, the anti-hate rally and those events, I think we have to be aware of making sure that everyone feels safe and heard, and that as we approach these events, being aware of all the different groups that are part of the community. I think that we also have an obligation to serve and protect.
Excellent. Tara.
Tamika, something you said just, my dream is that hopefully in a couple generations from now, we won't even have DEI because the world it'll just be something. And that's my hope. And I really hope, because people will say, well, when are we going to get rid of this DEI thing? And I'm like, well, why would we? Why would we get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion? And when you say the words out loud to people that don't agree, and I was really trying to watch my tone of voice because I know I can get snarky. And they were like, well, one person didn't know that that's what those words meant. And I'm like, and I kept saying, well, Reset, as a teacher, that's what we do all the time. Like, I'm one of 11 children. My mother, equity was like, you don't need that. That's why you don't have it. You know, it's like she had 11 kids, 11 different personalities. So I grew up kind of with this going on. And, you know, my dream is that we will have a society where we don't have to use that term because we're just going to be inclusive and we're going to be accepting. And, you know, maybe it's rose-colored glasses. I don't know, but that's my dream and that's my hope for us as a community and us as a world, you know?
Yeah. If you want to be, if you want to be accepted into the American dream, that is inclusivity. Period.
And part of that is taking a page out of our educators' handbook. You know, our educators differentiate their instruction, endeavor to differentiate their instruction so that it's, you know, so that they can tailor it to the individual students who are in their classroom. That's a struggle that every teacher is always wrestling with, depending on the composition of their classroom, to make sure that they're differentiating and being as inclusive as possible. At the same time, they're also scaffolding material, maybe making it accessible to all students. And part of our job with DEI is making it accessible to everyone and making sure we're on the same page. A lot of times when you say DEI, people have very vastly different perceptions of what that is. And I think part of our difficulty is that we have to be able to get on the same page, as well as deal with the different perceptions that are out there and that are driving it in the popular mind as well. So as educators, we sit in a very unique place of being people who are looking to include others in these conversations and looking to make it accessible to everyone. And that's that engagement is where we're looking to make an impact. And that challenge is there without, as the article said, turning it into a burning platform. And I was wondering if everybody knew what that meant, because I think that's more of a business phrase of having a burning platform. And it essentially means that you, as the image sort of portrays, if you don't do something immediately, everything is going to go up in flames. You know, you're making an issue so urgent that people feel compelled to act rather than integrating it into your existing efforts and seeing it as part of the work that we do, as was Marie and others have alluded to. So the article sort of chided us not to avoid turning it into a burning platform, especially with the where we can see what's happening in every news cycle. There seems to be someone blaming DEI for a tragedy in this country and making it a burning platform. And it's hard to resist that temptation to turn it into that and to really weave it into the work that we're doing on a regular basis to improve the lives of our students every day. Anju.
Yeah, when I read the article and like growing up being a student and seeing like how DEI is regarded in the educational system, it just kind of made me think about the root causes behind resistance to DEI, especially in like education. And I was just thinking about why there's like an aversion to DEI, and there are some people who are just like naturally resistant to change. Like any type of change, and especially things that might affect like policies or like values they might have held for a long time, or just like societal beliefs. And I think that's really difficult for others sometimes when they have to question their past assumptions. And then there's also a lot of people who are a little bit skeptical about how effective it would actually be, because they might not be like there to experience it, because they might still want to like be away from it, and they're not really recognizing the impact, because sometimes there is like a silent impact, because something that like you think about when you're younger and learn might take root later, and you could like remember it again. So I think that's something to definitely recognize. And again, like we have a lot of diverse students within our school district, so like using a one size fits all approach to DEI definitely won't work for everyone. But I think we need to continue looking back on these root causes, especially on how we can understand how like DEI can be beneficial towards an educational experience, looking at like new perspectives, and then work on gradual changes and also creating resources and networks between students and focusing on empathy. And I think the most important thing would be like facilitating conversations with people who might be opposed to it. I think that's kind of like thing that we should focus on so we can strip down our biases and kind of talk about the root behind it and how we can look towards a solution together.
Excellent. Excellent summation. Anise.
I just want to know if Anjana has applied for the superintendent position.
We're working on her CV as we're talking.
It's amazing. Really, really amazing.
Definitely. I tell you, our student voice groups are moving at a level that would be very impressive to each of you. Those students are something else, and it's like containing boundless energy as opposed to pulling teeth. They want to do something. The question is what and when and where, but they're very animated. Anise.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think that in seeing that really speaks to like what our work in the DEI committee is for. We need to get behind the student voice. So I think it sounds like really that committee is standing out, and our instruction, our direction on what all of our subcommittees work is whatever they tell us they need us to do. Whatever their initiatives are, that's what what research should be behind. What research do you need to push forward the conversations that you're having, the work you're having in school, and that's going to give us our orders on what we're needing to do.
I think Anju pointed us in a nice direction, because when we're talking about providing safe spaces, we often look to think we're protecting people from threats that are coming from outside, and everybody is hyper vigilant to try to create this threat-less environment, which is almost impossible to do and to be vigilant against. But one of the things that makes people feel safe is really the presence of connection and empathy, as she related. And I think that the students are learning to develop their connections, to develop empathy, and that it's those, you want to engage people, you have to be able to connect with them and to make sure that this is part of our, we're part of each other's, our realities are tied to each other's interests, and we need to support each other because our destinies are tied to one another. And the more that we can share a perspective that connects us, the better and the safer we are that our differences will be accepted, and that we'll be able to respect those differences and still be able to move together toward a common interest and common goals, and be able to see from each other's perspective. So I'm glad that students are focused on developing connections and talking about empathy. And I think that is a direction that we're being pointed in when it comes to this work. If we really want to safeguard this work, then we need to really think about what it means to be connected to one another, and what it means to be a community. And I think that's what led us back to that notion that we are Guilderland. What does that mean to us? And Mike Piscatelli, when I first came in, I saw that on the wall in the high school. And, I made a passing joke about it, but at the same time, it is that those aspirations and making them real is the work. Is not looking at it as aspirational, but looking at it as this is a fact of life for us. and how do we make that come alive for our students and for each other. So thank you, Andrew, for your comments. I appreciated those. Are there anything that anyone that would like to share about what they gleaned from the article with regard to some constructive ways to make sure that we keep moving forward and keep our energy moving forward to gain support? We'll start a GoFundMe for Anju's campaign to be the first high school graduate that assumed the superintendency of Guilderland. All right, then I guess we'll conclude our learning module for tonight, and I'll put it back in your hands, Shaka.
Sorry, I was muted. So if there's nothing else, I just need a motion to end tonight's meeting, which was fabulous. No one wants to end. Okay, Derek and Nina. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Have a good night.
Good night.